So would we all be in agreement that we could really benefit from having a good show tonight, because Tuesday kind of Mondayed some of us?
100%.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can do it.
So this is going to take some Fugazi jujitsu kind of stuff. I don't know, because it's a heavy topic. So we're going to talk about that hearing we heard 2 days ago in front of Judge Prill. And this was another thing that went wrong with my day. That was supposed to go up as a separate video today, but technical difficulties prevented that from happening. The list is just huge of the things today. But anyways, just to refresh all of you, this was the one in front of Judge Prill. You had the woman, as I recall, she was in a wheelchair.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So somehow she was a caregiver, but she was in a wheelchair. She stole $11,000 from her mother while her mother was in hospice care.
Yeah.
But she didn't spend the money to like take care of herself per se. It was for things like gambling. And I think she got a cell phone in there and some
iPhone,
other...
iPad, and laptop.
Yes, all sorts of stuff. So the question, and she tried to defend herself too, and we'll get into that, but she was saying, well, you know, life was so tough and nobody helped me.
Yep.
So we all had a lot of strong feelings on that, and I'm sure there's some directions where we can go many directions. I kind of prefaced the show with the idea of she stole from her dying mother, but was she just burned out? Well, I think we'll answer that one in about 2 seconds and then decide where to go from there. But that's the direction. So welcome, everybody.
Hi.
It is Sidebar.
Hello.
It's good to have you guys all here because it makes my day better personally. So thank you. Because I have not liked today. So let's move forward. Ashley, I think you had some basic info. Was there anything I didn't cover that we should know before we dig in? I think that was the highlights, but I want to make sure I'm not missing something important.
Was the highlights. It wasn't the first time she's stolen from her.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
This is not the first time. She has stolen from her before. We know that.
Yeah.
And she was taking care of her for approximately 64 nights. And
that was it.
That's it. And that's apparently what sent her over the edge. So she says.
Her comment was 64 days without help. That she was the only one, and that's why it happened the way it did.
Okay.
I think that's it, though. I think you cover everything else.
So my first question is, if she was supposedly on hospice, how was there no help?
Well, that is a solid question.
It is a solid question.
Now, not all hospices are built the same. Some are better than others.
Yeah.
I guess the question is, was she on hospice like palliative care, or was it the I'm declining care? I forget the exact name for it, but there's a different level.
Yeah.
Where they don't provide like daily support. It's more like moral support with a monthly check-in.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I suppose that could be part of it. But she did pass, as I recall.
Yes.
So
because she was quite upset about having to grieve both of her parents from the confines of the Michigan Department of Corrections.
Suicidal.
How cruel that would have been.
Didn't she have like 9 previous felonies and 5 misdemeanors or something to
4.
that effect?
Something like that. Yeah.
4.
9 felonies and 4 misdemeanors.
Oh, well, that makes it better than 5, I suppose.
Depends who you ask.
And 60 some nights, and she was burnt out.
Apparently.
Yeah,
We're
I have
5
some people
minutes
in my
in.
life that would probably have a few words with her about 64 nights only.
I'm just going to
That's not
say
my
it, and then
story
I'm
to
going to
tell.
shut up and let you guys talk. I don't think I've heard such effed up bullshit in a hearing in a very, very long time.
That's kind of where I was going.
I'm saying that because my wife and I pretty much went career with taking care of people.
Yeah.
Her father, we took care of for just over 7 years. He had aphasia. The only thing that came out of his mouth was "goddamn." Most of the time, every now and then he'd stick in a stray word. But, you're trying to navigate through that, figure out what he needs, what he wants, everything else. And we dealt with that for 7 years and 64 nights or whatever. And she's burned out. Dan bites tongue. Please proceed.
Yep.
Yeah. She had, of course, she has physical ailments, right? She was in a wheelchair. She has, I think it was her hip. I think she needed a hip replacement or something. She also has struggles with her mental health, she said during the hearing, including a past suicide attempt. So was she in the position to actually care for said parent? Probably not. Was she the only one to care for said parent? Probably. But I found it interesting that at the end, they said that she wasn't the one to inherit. So that makes me think that
Oh, I missed
there isn't
that
a-
part.
So
Yeah.
there was a comment she made. She did what she did to get out of the situation, so her other sisters had to step up. Was a comment she made during the defendant comments. I can't think of the word right now because I'm struggling through this one too.
I can think of a word. It starts with a C. This lady
Confinement,
is,
because that's what she needs. That's where you're going, right, Michael?
absolutely.
Yeah, I thought so.
See you next time.
Ah!
I don't know if she was on drugs. And Barbara was asking. She says she thinks she was on drugs. I don't know. It didn't specify in court.
They
if she
alluded to
was on any
some
drugs.
mental health issues.
Clearly.
And I think there may have been at some point the usual round of self-medicating for mental health issues, but nothing like drug related specifically called out. Now, debts were called out.
I mean,
The gambling was supposed to be to help pay off debts.
Yeah.
So how sad is it that the money this is sad for me to say, but it's sad that the money she stole wasn't even used for the drugs she was on.
Correct.
But it's almost true.
I mean, I went back. So I only saw part of it live, like when we first watched, and so I had to go back and watch. Right, so I go back and watch, and I watched, and there was a couple of times where I just went, I didn't hear that right. I could not have heard that right because she spent the money on iPad, iPhone, and devices, and gambling,
and vandalism.
Yeah.
Vandalism? I missed that
I will
part.
go into that too.
Yeah.
Oh
Pulling
back layers.
Yeah.
Smell the onion, kids.
And it's one thing when it's just somebody that just does that or steals stuff, like a kid steals stuff. Like we see this, like Judge Stevens' court just seems to for whatever reason, get these cases like regularly. And it's bad enough when it happens there, but it's a 20-year-old kid and they're just stealing crap, and then they're taking money and using it for gambling because they're hooked on sports betting or whatever. This is a person that stole money from a dying relative, their own dying parent,
Mother.
Yeah, yes. That in and of itself is low. But then to not even get it because, hey, yeah, my parents died, but I have medications or medical debts or debts of some kind that
gambling debt.
It doesn't make it okay to pay off your debt by stealing from a dying relative, dying parent. That doesn't make it okay, but you could at least understand. There's like a justification to be made there. Like, hey, they're not going to need this money. Ha ha ha, But this was just like, this was like Legion of Doom level of evil. Like oh my God, what kind of person are you? I just found myself getting really mad. I was taken aback by the whole thing, and I wonder, what kind of, we always talk about what kind of punishment should you give to somebody like this. And, and I don't know what you can do because the person they stole from is gone.
Yeah.
So really, at this point, to me, all that's left is the punitive aspect, because somebody like this is not, I don't know how you're going to rehabilitate this person, and maybe this is the emotion talking in me, but somebody that's that scummy, like somebody, again, this wasn't like, oh, I stole from a rando, okay, which is bad enough, but maybe you could redeem that. This is, I stole from a parent. I stole from somebody that is supposed to be closest to me.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could even redeem that if it was the first time in a smaller amount.
Right. And that's the thing too, is it wasn't even the first time.
Yep.
I mean, so supposedly she was on drugs. If she had a drug habit and she stole a couple $100 to feed the drug habit and it was the first time and she got caught, all right, we work on that.
Yep.
But I'm struggling to find a person in this genre of crime who is a bigger piece of garbage.
Right.
Allegedly.
Well, she probably thought that she was paying herself because she wasn't being paid enough for the caregiving.
And then that's the other part of this, Ashley, is the hubris of, I'm not getting what I deserve, so I'm just going to take what I and I'm also doing this to force others to get involved.
Her sisters,
what kind of...
I'm not sure I understand the logic of that one.
I don't understand that one either.
I can tell you from witnessed experience that doesn't always work. If they don't want to be involved, they're not going to be involved.
Yeah.
No.
So did they have a...
Yeah.
Did they say anything about a potential civil case? Like, could the siblings go after her if there was supposed to be a trust and the money's gone, or is that just water under the bridge?
She had 2 fines to pay with each charge, and then no victim restitution was asked for, and it was then waived at this. I believe Judge Prill said they could potentially go to like civil court for it, but
they hadn't. There was no action.
It's not at that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
The way I would lawyer the hell up if I was that sister, I'm telling you.
Oh, definitely.
Well, any money
what
that
you could get if she's already indigent and in jail, but
any money that was stolen from that mom, the 11,000, I guess, what that was stolen from that mom, it would have gone to like whoever would have inherited, which would be one of her sisters. Apparently. And so I guess she was just trying to take what she thought was due to her before it got passed on to her siblings, which is stealing from your
stealing.
I call first
not
dibs.
just your mother, but your
stealing.
siblings too. So
and that's what I was just curious, like if the sister had grounds for a civil case, but I guess at the end of the day, if there's no money there,
can't.
Especially
this woman was in a wheelchair. Okay, so here's the part that gets me about this. All right, so someone with a disability, myself, we have another person with a disability on the panel. Like, okay, I get it. Life isn't fair. Okay, it isn't. It just, it isn't fair. But it doesn't mean that just because you got dealt, a couple of bad cards in your hand, that you just go out and you sort of, pull out a couple of cards from your sleeve and cheat like that. I mean, that's just not how it works.
Right.
You can't do that just because you can't screw other people because you got screwed by the universe. That's just not how life works.
Nope. And it's only going to come back bad on you in the end.
Right.
Right.
And the crazy part is, if you're a caregiver and you're in that kind of a position, and if you had just gone through with it and seen it through and not been a piece of scum, a lot of people probably would have had tons of sympathy for you. You might have gotten, I'm not saying $11,000 worth of sympathy from people, but maybe, somebody would have helped you out more. You probably could have asked for help. A lot of people would have been willing to reach out. I mean, that's the other thing we always talk about on Sidebar is, building a community and why can't we have more, involvement in the community to help with some of these problems? And maybe you could have gotten out there. I mean, I'm being pie in the sky, but
I'm kind of glad she didn't do that.
These are things that you could have done outside of I'm going to steal from dying parent.
Oh my God. Can you imagine if she opened up like a GoFundMe or something and like people donated?
Yeah.
Yeah, she wouldn't have stolen mom's money, but she might have stolen a lot of other people's money.
She would steal a lot of people's money if that was the case.
A lot of people would have donated because they would see, woman in wheelchair caring for dying. I might have donated to something like that.
Right. And if
because I'm a softie and an idiot, and I probably would have.
Policies. Sorry,
right.
Was that Michael?
I was just saying I'm a softie and an idiot. I probably would have donated to somebody like that.
Oh, I would have too. And the thing is, with like a GoFundMe, there's insurance if you're found to be a stealing scumbag, and you get your money back if the person's not using it properly.
Right. But that's, you just hope that your kids aren't like that. Like that's, I didn't have any kids of my own, so I guess I don't have to worry about that. But you also hope that maybe your kids are cool, and that way, but can you imagine, like, you have these kids and you think,
they'll take care of me.
They'll take care of me. Everything's going to be fine. And then you realize, oops. Yeah, I went like 0 for 3 with a couple of strikeouts. Like that's not good.
But
that can happen.
Back to the defense of that burnout, because I know the defense had an interesting viewpoint in regards to why she did this, and that he was
interesting is a very kind word, Ashley.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be kind here. It's kind of hard for me because she had no excuse. Anyway, he was referencing burnout, and I don't understand what he was getting at, to be honest, because burnout, it has to be over a long period of time for burnout to occur. The 64 days, that's what, a little bit over 2 months. So, and I know she wasn't well. I know she wasn't really able herself physically. And trying to care for an elderly person when you are having a disability yourself, I understand that point and everything. But I still don't understand why burnout would cause her to take money from her mom. Like, maybe I don't know. I never made that connection.
It's easy to be burned out when you're a selfish jackass.
I had a very rough day today. I had a
I'm
very
over here
rough
kind of
day
calculating
today.
my words, and Michael's just like, nope.
Yep.
Today was difficult, and I have mom's credit card because she asked me to take care of stuff for her. You know what didn't happen today? I didn't go spend any money on her damn credit card.
And especially her debit card, because that's what this woman did.
Yeah, no, I just Now, I will say that another thing you have to consider is the quality of the other children, because if the other children left mom to be cared for by this piece of garbage, that says something about the other children as well, regardless of the quality of the mother, because I'm sure there's a possibility that mom wasn't a very good mom.
Oh, I'm sure there's stories galore.
Yeah. But none of it justifies this.
No.
I don't care if, I don't care if mom was like, related to Goebbels. Okay. that still doesn't justify like stealing money.
No.
It doesn't justify. Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't. You know, wrong is still wrong. And yeah, it does say something about the other kids that didn't even want to get involved. But I will say, at least not getting involved, while we could make an argument about morality, it's not a crime. You know, and maybe they were self-aware enough to know if I got involved, maybe I would steal as well. I don't know. I have no idea what the mindset is. But
the question I have, and I know we're not going to have answers, is if the other daughters were getting the financial inheritance, then why was this daughter the only daughter available for care? Is it like an out-of-state living situation? Is it like there's got to be something?
Has to be.
That's the only thing I could think is like it's an out-of-state living situation where like these other children are not in a place where they can uproot their life, and this one just happened to be there, and that's how this happened.
I gotta care for my
that
mom.
in some families where like there's 4 kids.
Yep.
You know, so it just falls on the one that's there, whether they're the right option or not, because they're just not at a point where they're not retired yet, or they aren't going to be able to retire, or they have their own health issues. I mean, there's a litany of issues.
Yeah.
I'm not excusing anything that happened here, but that's kind of my thought is.
But the irony, the irony of someone in a wheelchair complaining about burning out on caregiving is just, I mean, Shakespearean level.
7 or 9-time felon sister is the only.
But what kind of depends what you give.
I can't even get the sentence out.
I know.
And she deeply regretted her actions in court, and she apologized to her children.
Yep.
No shit, she regretted it. She got busted.
And I was like, what? And she's attending Bible study in jail. Like, what does this have to do with anything? Like, why are you apologizing to your children, not your siblings or your mom?
Blankets again. I'm going to Bible study.
Oh my God. And that was, I can,
Which good for
like
her,
in my,
she's finding redemption through whatever, but
Q Dan _throws pen.gif, but you know, yeah, the Jesus blanket was like
Dan's not hearing any of this. So
this case had every possible thing wrong with it. This case had like it went down the check boxes of everything that annoys all of us about cases in TCF. A woman that, you know, only has remorse because she got caught. And even at that, the remorse was like kind of level, you know, it was like, and then, yeah, the fuzzy, the warm, fuzzy embrace of the Jesus blanket. And then the fact that it's just a scummy crime in the first place. Theft is one thing, you know, it's a crime of moral turpitude, but I mean, like theft from a dying parent is just bad. And then what you use that money on is worth, like everything about this case was, this was a 7-layer cake of crap.
There's also another point I wanted to bring up. I thought this person was on parole.
She is.
She was.
She was.
So
at the
if
time
she's
of the
on
crime.
parole, how in the world is she?
How is she allowed to be a caregiver?
Exactly.
I was just about to say,
Yeah,
I was just about to say, doesn't this make Judge Boyd's whole "you're not allowed to be a caregiver while you're on probation"?
Not allowed to work as a caregiver.
That's why Judge Boyd does that.
Yeah.
That's why. I mean, I'm going almost Seinfeld. That's why. That's why you don't caregive. Why are you doing that, George?
Yep. The agency I get my stuff through would never hire her in at all after that. Or before this.
After that, of
just
course
being on
not.
parole and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and again, she wasn't on parole because, I went, 19 in a school zone. I mean, this was like she had already had multiple convictions, like serious convictions.
For theft. Felony theft convictions, and they went, she's totally the right one to take care of mom.
Right?
Not stealing a pen from Office Max, like,
there.
yeah, Like serious crap. So like everything about, and again, we talk about this and we go deep into this sometimes. Like this is where, okay, yeah, she was bad for doing this and we can look at her kids and stuff, but kind of, you know, and I hate to say this, but the system really, it didn't exactly do the greatest job in this situation either. You know, how is it that someone is even allowed to be in this position?
Yep.
Especially when you have that many convictions. I don't know. I am just, I'm glad we're talking about this, but I also feel a little bit of rage within and
yep.
And a little bit of almost fear, you know, because I think about it, you know, as you get older, you start to have these thoughts of, well, what if I end up in, you know, Shady Pines or wherever, and you know, and who's going to be taking care of me? Is it going to be someone with 36 theft convictions? And is my poor little Social Security check and all that money I make off of YouTube, is that going to go to feed someone's gambling and meth addiction? Like what's going on?
Michael, you're not looking at this properly. With all the millions you're making off of YouTube, you will be able to afford the best care. You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Background checks upon background check.
Yep. No
there
worries.
Is another. There's another angle I was thinking about too, and that's the serial predator angle. So she is a serial predator. She has stolen before, like at least 4 times.
Yeah.
Stolen from people. So did she volunteer herself for those 64 nights just to have access to her debit card? And that thought just keeps on sticking in my mind. Like, did she do it out of love, or did she have?
That's a good call, Ashley. Oh no, sis and bro, you guys stay where you are. I've totally got mom. I owe it to you after I put everything I put the family through. It's fine.
Yep.
She got burned out because the money was gone.
Just don't look on the computer. Don't check anything.
Don't check the bank account.
Oh no, don't worry about it, guys. I got it all handled. Oh yeah, I'm a financial whiz. Yeah, absolutely. Nothing to see here. Certainly not. Nope. Hey, is that a new iPad? No. I've this old thing. No.
Oh, she's
still got the price tag on it. Hey, are you driving a new car? Oh no,
I know that's a dark thought of mine, but
oh no,
I'm
Welcome just
to
saying.
Dark Thoughts with Ashley.
As a predator, even if you're not like any child stuff or anything like that, it's a predator of some sort of financial
elder abuse
fraud. And that's why I'm thinking maybe she wanted her alone and vulnerable so she could take advantage of her, unfortunately.
It's not really a dark thought. It's just I think that's actually just the obvious thought, which may also be a dark thought, but it's kind of where I think all of us were sort of thinking, because when I watched this, again, I had a few moments where I went, I got to hit back and see that I heard that correctly, because there's no way I heard that.
Yep. And then I had to stop for a while, take a break because I was just going crazy. Then I had to get back into it. Then break.
I had to binge drink a little bit, try to deal with my thoughts about society. What was it? Lindsay said something like, go hug my dog.
Yeah, go snuggle my dog.
Snuggle my dog. That's just and just escape the world for a while. I had to go on sabbatical. Yeah, that was a really, again, I would say, and there's been far worse cases in terms of, you know, level of severity of crime, in terms of how society punishes it, right? But in terms of just the pure immorality of it, this is top 5, man, that we've seen on TCF. This is
that's pretty bad.
Yeah, it doesn't get much lower than that. Again, outside of like child stuff, it doesn't get much lower than that.
This one struck me because of the family history. My mom referenced it in the chat, where her and dad took care of my grandfather for a year when he was dying of cancer, and I was in the home when that happened, so I saw that behavior modeled to me at a young age. And then I've spent so much of my adult life looking after my father until he passed, and then Beth's father until he passed, and now my mother. And it's not easy, but it's the right thing to do. And when I see people act like this lady did, regardless of her own issues, regardless of whether or not there's family support, because I will tell you, oftentimes there is not. You're often on an island. You still have to do right. And it just left me incensed to watch somebody just sit there. I mean, I even stand there, sit there in the wheelchair and go, well, I was burnt out because 64 days and, so gambling and, I was justified and got no help and, cry me a river.
Right.
Then don't choose to do it in the first place.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to do it, you gotta see it through. I mean, that's just,
yeah.
And I get it's hard sometimes. I get, it's tough. It's tough caring for somebody, even when they're not necessarily at that stage. My dad had kidney disease, right? I mean, and he was still able to mostly take care of himself, but, you still went over there and then, he was in the hospital a couple of times and, you still had to try to help him with some things and he wasn't even, in a terrible state. I mean, he just wound up dying eventually just because, kidney disease is just a real bitch and everything just shuts down on you. And, and he was 58 years old. It wasn't even like a situation where he was 85, 90 years old, but, you still have to help take care of their affairs and all that stuff. Not once did it ever cross my mind, hey, I'm going to take, my dad's money or whatever. Even though he pretty much just told us to take it, but it still never crossed my mind to do that sort of thing. And I wasn't even in the, so I don't know. I don't know how you just have to be wired differently, I guess. I don't know how that happens. I really don't. It's weird.
There are two types of people in this world. And I've said this before. There are givers and there's takers. And this lady is a taker, of course. So it's unfortunate. But yeah, it is a mindset thing, I think, Michael, that she probably was thinking nobody's going to miss this money. She doesn't need it anyway. That type of thing, that type of logic. But and she wasn't thinking, she was only thinking about her own self-gain and not what other people were losing. And other people are wired the opposite way, they're like, well, I need to give to them because they need it more than I do. But that was not her mindset here, apparently.
Right. And I mean, if she used a little bit for herself, like, hey, and she bought herself like a meal or something, or hey, food, I gotta buy, I'm buying my mom like a new blanket, and maybe I'll buy myself one or something. I mean, if it was, even kind of adjacent, like caregiver adjacent, sort of related, and it was just a few bucks here or there, I think we could kind of just all go, okay, man, that's whatever, it's fine, it's not the crime of the century. Or, you can understand it, but I mean, iPads and iPhones and gambling and drugs and everything else.
And there can be some occasion, too, when you're in a caregiving position, especially as time goes on, that things tend to merge a little bit sometimes.
Sure.
So the finances will get mixed up. But that certainly isn't going to happen over 64 days.
No.
Well, yeah, that's 2 months.
That's something that develops over years. Like, okay, for example, when we had Beth's father, the only thing that he had that worked for him to keep him busy, and it's horrible, but it was all he had because of the stroke, was the television. Yep. So we always made sure we had the best cable package with all of the channels because I was able to teach him how to work the remote. And it was something he could do independently. But he also paid for that extra part of the cable bill because that was his entertainment. So, but the whole family used it. But you get what I mean. I mean, there's like crossover and stuff.
But again, that's adjacent. That's care adjacent. You
exactly.
know, that's not stealing.
But it's not. It's not this.
He's getting a benefit from it.
Dan, where like there's an elderly person in the home and like the television's the only thing that keeps them going, so they spring for the good stuff. And by association, everyone in that house or a neighboring family member gets it.
Yeah.
Because they're connected.
And it ain't like it enriched us because we had no time to watch television. So
right.
Well, and here's the other thing, as is the case with a lot of crimes, I always just look at it just comes down to intent, right? I mean, you know, in the case of the TV, your intent is to provide him something that he can actually use and that he's the only thing that's giving him independence. Your intention there is not to defraud. It's not evil. It's to help.
Yeah.
Intent is, to me, means a lot in any sort of a case like this.
Yeah.
You can't say her intent was anything but completely selfish with everything that she did. And so as a result, you know, I mean, there's not a book big enough to throw at her, I think.
I mean,
and she was crying.
Able to use that iPad or that computer
or
play the online slot game.
I'm starting to realize or starting to differentiate when they're crying in court versus like when they're crying in court, what they're crying about.
Yeah.
Is she crying that for self-pity that she got caught and now she has to face the consequences? Or are they crying because they felt bad for what they have done?
Yep.
And this lady, I pretty much guarantee she is crying because she got caught and she has to face the consequences.
Those were the crocodile tears of a lifetime right there.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I bet as soon as she went in the back, they were gone. Or as soon as she got settled in the back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do we know from that hearing how she got caught? Because I don't remember that being covered.
I don't think it said.
They didn't say, because this was just the sentencing, so we didn't hear.
Yep.
I couldn't remember if it came up.
Nope.
I imagine that one of the children after the fact probably found.
Well, probably when they went to.
I wish I did know that,
and,
so I would know the story.
Yeah.
So, but no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know what else can be done. So this, I guess the question that I have with the justice system though is, you know, I kind of brought it up earlier, is what is the appropriate way to handle somebody like this?
Right.
Yep.
Because that's the question we always talk about here on Sidebar whenever we have cases like this is what, you know, sometimes restitution and not throwing them in jail is the answer because we want people to get paid back. Or sometimes there's the path of rehabilitation and there's a redemption arc that can be had there, or at least given an attempt, right? But someone that's had multiple convictions, that's been down this road more than twice, you know, I think this is just one of those where there is no redemption arc. There is nothing left. And, you know, wheelchair or not, I don't feel any extra sympathy for someone like, and as a matter of fact, I think it actually makes me a little bit more upset that somebody that's in the disabled community would do something like that.
Yep.
You know, for me, there's no place that serves this woman better than prison.
And I think to the argument about restitution, I mean, you weren't going to get it from this woman.
No.
You know, at this point, I hate to say it, she's probably unemployable I think they said she needed a hip replacement. She was already in a wheelchair. She had a record, which was probably going to make it damn near impossible to find much kind of employment of any.
9 felonies.
You know, yeah. So, like, really the best place for her is jail.
Yeah, those call centers, those scam call centers wouldn't even hire her at this point. I mean, she's, you know.
Probably not.
No.
I say screw rehabilitation on this woman to the utmost degree. And she does need to be behind bars. Because the reason why she got on parole in the first place was probably because of her crocodile tears. And the fact that she has that many felonies and still out of prison is impressive. We see people.
She knew what she needed to do to serve her time to be out on parole. So she knows how to perform, clearly, with the crocodile tears.
Yeah, she knows how to work the system. I mean, that's the other thing is, you see this, Judge Boyd will even talk about this sometimes, like, people know how to work the system and to say the right thing to the judge and to do the, the bare minimum, but still be able to show that they've done something. Yeah. And that's when you're that manipulative, and it's so bad to see that. Yep. And to me, she can just ride out the rest of her time. She can just go to the prison and just wait it out there because.
I mean, they could make her have a job in prison for what she's able to do, and
sure,
the money from her wage could go to.
You know what, Lindsay? She could knit some nice, warm, fuzzy Jesus blankets. And
I will say, good on the judge, though. He did this consecutively on her sentencing.
Oh, absolutely.
She's
and
not
it doesn't start until her parole sentence is done. So what she's in for right now does not count for this 30.
Yeah, so she finishes out what she was on parole, then she starts the new ones back to back.
Yep. So is she going to get out anytime soon? I don't think so.
Nope.
No. And we talk about good behavior and some time credited but there's not a parole board. I mean, nobody on a parole board is going to look at that, wheelchair or not, and go,
well, if she was
I think we're going to grant you parole.
A hip replacement. So she's in the Department of Corrections system. She gets a hip replacement, goes through a PT, and she's out of that wheelchair. She's not permanently disabled.
Right.
At least not physically.
Yep.
I remember that was part of the
she
speech given through her tears was she needed the hip replacement.
She may have mental illness, but
she definitely had mental illness. They called that out.
May have, that's a definite. She was getting treatment
for it in prison. So maybe she was getting to the point where she was breaking through, and some of that remorse was real, but I don't think she was there yet.
No.
Anybody that commits that many thefts and anybody that would do that to a parent, I mean, there's clearly mental illness.
100%.
Clearly. And again, when we talk about that here, I know there's inevitably going to be someone that says that that's sort of a justification or that's somehow whitewashing a little bit of what was done or giving her a built-in justification. And it is absolutely not. No. Just because you have a mental illness doesn't mean I feel sorry for you necessarily. Some people, absolutely. This is not one of those cases. This is one that the mental illness, I think she brought it on herself almost,
There are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people out there every day living with mental illness who don't steal $11,000 from their dying mother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Just be out there and stand in the corner and talk to yourself like every other respectable person.
And I know
that's what I do.
I know she's tried to, off herself in the past and everything because of her mental illness and everything.
Allegedly.
And all the more reason why she should not be caring for this lady. I don't know how she gained a caregiver access to her.
Right. Yeah.
Only thing I can
that
think
did
of
not
is
work.
I wouldn't let her care for a credenza.
Sorry, Austin, what were you going to throw in there?
Ashley said she didn't know how, and the only thing that I can think of is she's not doing it through an agency and it slipped through the cracks.
An informal arrangement.
Their mom.
Yeah. That's the only way it could have worked.
But then, how is she on hospice care?
Well, that's a separate issue.
That's separate.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, we cared for my wife's father, but in the end, we had hospice care. It had nothing to do with us.
Yep.
Right.
It was just to help him through those final couple days.
Yeah, so there's a medical support end of it. And then there's the person who's just living there, taking care of meals and
especially when you reach the very end with like the palliative care, there's certain meds that you're only going to get through hospice and the doses that you need.
Right, the morphines and stuff. Yeah,
yep, exactly.
I get that. I just wish there was like another like third party or somebody watching over all of this, and there wasn't, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
Ugh.
And that's where it gets tricky is, like there aren't really those services that kind of watch over the legal and financial side of things. Like there's a caregiver there for the medical piece, but unless you have your lawyer on 24/7 standby, watching the bank accounts, watching the transactions,
that's not going to happen. That's expensive.
That service doesn't exist.
And that leads to the part of the conversation that we also have whenever we have these kinds of these topics is how do you prevent stuff like this going forward? And I don't know if there's an easy answer to that.
That's kind of where I was leading to, because I wish there was a way to prevent this from going forward. But just like how we watched that other case where that woman had obesity passed away, this is another caregiving aspect that we're covering. And
I mean, the solution can't just be have better children. I mean, there's got to be, there's got to be something more palatable that we can do, but I don't know what it is exactly. But obviously I don't know. Michigan needs to really look into the whole making sure, like in Texas, do not let somebody with a convicted felon that is a convicted felon, even if it is for theft, certainly don't let them have any sort of caregiving of the elderly or minors.
She shouldn't have been able to live with her because of the prior offense as well.
Again, where's the enforcement?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and
they could even say she can't, but then, it's small town, rural, middle of nowhere Michigan. There's really not much stopping her from
I didn't think about that part.
Wheeling herself over there.
Being not in a rural area, it's hard for me to think of that. But thank you for bringing that up.
In the middle of freaking nowhere. I mean, it's beautiful country, but there's not much there.
The same thing with that other case. With it being in the middle of nowhere.
Rural Michigan.
Yep.
Yes.
What would we do without small town Michigan?
Isn't this the area where there was the bar/law office or something? Or was it was a bar/ no, it was a convenience store / restaurant.
Convenience store / bar.
That's what it was. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, it's so rural. You have to make these combo products just to make business work.
I think convenience store bar. I think that actually sounds good.
Yeah, it just kind of sounds like Triple K to me. But
they put a bar in Whole Foods. I mean, why not? Why not?
Did they really?
I know people that go tailgate Minnesota United games at the Whole Foods down the street from the stadium because there's a bar in the Whole Foods.
Kroger's puts bars in some of their stores.
Yeah.
I know they sold wine, but I didn't know they had a bar. Wow.
Yeah, anyway, that's off topic. I think it's mostly beer and wine. I think depends on the location, but they serve alcohol by the glass. So it means if you're on parole in certain parts of the country, they serve alcohol by the glass. You can't go in Whole Foods.
Yep.
Wow.
Nothing quite like tipping back a few before you go grocery shopping. I'll tell you.
Hey, they know how to prime you to spend money.
Yeah. I'm not even being sarcastic. I'm not putting it down. It's a good business model.
With the whole company trying to be their whole model is to be healthy and use holistic products.
A long time ago.
Come on,
It stopped being about that.
Yep.
Yeah, especially when they got taken over by Amazon, I guess.
Yeah,
I haven't even been in
Whole Foods dropped the W quite a while ago.
I don't know. I'm irrelevant. I mean, my knowledge is irrelevant.
You're eating the Whole Foods, all the food.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, food again. Food wins.
Back to it. I'd take a break.
It was the natural progression of this one, especially with this kind of this kind of a heavy topic. All I could think about was let's go to the bar and try to forget this one.
So Wahoo, mom had dementia, and that was why she needed caregiving.
Mom had dementia and hallucinations.
Yeah, mom's mind was not there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's kind of what led to a lot of this.
Well, she definitely. I didn't realize that's what it was, but then she was definitely not the person to deal with that.
No.
In the end, with Beth's father, we were dealing with that. He was trying to walk through doors that weren't there and sit on furniture that wasn't there. And
I do that, but that's because I'm blind.
He saw things crawling across the floor that did not exist. And I'm of sound mind and I'm, fairly capable. And I had a hard time dealing with that.
I bet.
Yeah.
So for somebody like her, who is apparently not of right mind and has her own issues, physical, mental, criminal, all of that kind of stuff, totally the wrong person. Not even close to what that woman would have needed.
Because you need like a calm person, a calm, reasonable person to handle, I would think, a dementia patient. I don't have experience in this area, but I would think that someone like kind of calms them down. You know what? It's like kind of my brother's autistic, and so sometimes he gets keyed up, and having a calm person to calm him down and everything, it makes all the difference in the world. So I would think it would be the same in this case.
Yeah. Well, and I think above all else too, like calm, naturally personality aside, there's training that I think needs to come into play as well, or some education around like, here's what's to expect, here's what you're gonna see, here's the best way to deal with it. And let's be honest, I can assure you she didn't get that, and if she did get that, she didn't retain any of it or didn't have the mental capacity with all of her issues to retain that. And I could see, especially some folks with dementia, unfortunately, can get aggressive and violent. And that's where I think a lot of the burnout might not be as exaggerated as we were thinking, but again, it definitely is exaggerated because it was 64 days. Come on.
I wouldn't call it burnout at that point, though.
Frustration, I think it might be the better word. Like, burnout is a very real and specific thing, and I don't think she was burned out. I think she was frustrated. Personal
abuse or frustration, like you were saying. But burnout, I don't know if that's the right word for that, because burnout's usually on, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like the right word.
Burnout is one of those things that, it takes a long time usually for that to creep in.
I had burnout personally at my prior job, and I was there for 9 years. So
it's a very real thing, but I think it's a term that's being co-opted for a lot of other things right now that is not.
I mean, you can be tired of doing something.
That's not burnout.
It's different. Like burnout is a whole concept. It's kind of like, usually it implies that you had a passion for something, that you really enjoyed doing something, but eventually, because of various constraints or things that happened along the way, or simply just because maybe you worked too hard at it, or maybe whatever, something happened, or multiple somethings happened and just caused you to sort of lose that passion for something. Taking care of somebody is not necessarily something that you would have a passion for, but you do it out of love, or you do it out of necessity. Out of compassion, necessity. And it doesn't, burnout is really not a concept that applies there. It's just, I'm tired of doing this, and, kind of different. I mean, it is definitely a difference between the two concepts, at least for me. I don't know.
No, I agree with you, Michael. That's a very good point. Burnout does not apply. I mean, burnout is something that YouTube millionaires like you and I will experience at some point with this platform. But nobody goes into caregiving for an elderly parent going, man, I just love this. This is great. There's nothing great about it.
No.
I mean, it's something that if you do it right, you're proud to do, and you're happy to provide the service, but you're not at no point are you like, this is the time of my life.
Yeah. There's a gratification that comes with it to a point.
Yeah.
There's the doing the right thing, but that's a different experience and emotion than this is just the greatest thing ever.
Right.
That's what you burn out
thankless
from.
job.
Then you have someone who has developed a pattern of pleasure-seeking behaviors.
Yep.
In this case, where she's definitely doing something that's not giving pleasure, giving that little dopamine hit, suddenly, oh no, my brain can't handle it.
Right.
Right. I mean, that's
$11,000 away.
Which is why the gambling and everything had a substitute because she did need that dopamine from somewhere. So why not gamble, get that high, not to pay off debts, but because of mental necessity.
Yeah. Get the rush of buying the thing, playing the game.
And again, if she used that money to pay off her own credit card, I'm not saying that's right, but you could make the argument. You could at least go, well, but at least, was for, still trying to take care of her own stuff, I guess. And it wasn't anything like really bad. Like there's levels of bad. And this is as scummy as it can get. I mean, other than maybe spending the money to like take out a hit on somebody. I mean, I can't think of much worse than this.
Right?
Yep. No, Michael, you said earlier she was probably in your top 5. I would, just to kind of sum things up, I would tend to agree.
Yeah.
This is just watching this in the moment. It just, and again, just from the personal experience, just kind of hit me as, wow, you suck.
Yeah. This was one where I think we all jumped into that panel chat and like, so we're talking about this.
Yep.
I
think this is the quickest we've ever decided.
Reactions in the chat. So I'm like, okay, we have our topic.
Yep. I think this is the quickest we've ever decided. At
least
since I've been a part. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I didn't even see the whole thing, and I was on board with it.
I felt my skin boil when I was watching it. I was like,
"Oh, I did too."
What in the world's happening?
That's how because I only saw like the first part, like I said. So then I went back and watched, and what's funny is I went into it with like, I was in a really pretty good mood to watch, and I was feeling, this will just be another TCF case, and I'll probably get a little fired up about it, and then that'll be it, and it'll be fun to talk about it. Oh, fun little case of theft,
Super fun.
It just the layers, as Lindsay was talking about, as you peeled it back, it just got darker and darker and darker. And
no matter which way you tried to find some kind of not even like justification, but just like an understanding, you just came back up against this wall of she sucks. Like,
right.
There's just no other way to look at it.
Can you imagine somebody that's disabled taking care of another disabled person? How that house might be like?
No, don't say it.
I don't want to go there.
Don't say it. I can't do it. Too much.
Yeah.
Would Burger Man be proud?
I'm just saying. It's
looked
probably
like Buddy's
not the
kennel from this morning.
Asmongold's lair.
Asmongold. Yes. Oh God.
There's a delay between our feed and like it coming up on YouTube, so I'm watching myself react.
Me too. I try not to look over there.
Sorry. Look at those faces,
I didn't really think about that, Ashley. And I just thought, a disabled person, screwing over another disabled person, how awful. And then I didn't even think about the other kind of more practical side of it, like, oh yeah.
Yep. Soon as she said
someone in a wheelchair carrying with someone for dementia.
Who's picking up? I mean,
nobody.
Who's doing the chores?
Let's hope there's no
some, but not much.
Oh.
Yep.
Well, on
that
the flies are happy.
Yeah.
How about elder
on
abuse?
that dark imagery, we should
Ashley's dark thoughts.
Yes. Any final thoughts, Ashley, besides what the hell does that house look like?
We talk about the caregiver crisis in this country, but is Amy Jo Brolin, who is our defendant, the face of that crisis, or is she the villain in it?
Oh, there. Both?
Yeah.
Both?
She could have been on Masters of the Universe. She could beat out Skeletor. I mean, this
I want to
is
say
one
both,
heck
too.
of a villain.
Both.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, again, this is top 5 worst, but I would say both. I mean, now from now on, whenever I think of scummy behavior, this is definitely one that's going to pop right out of the old Rolodex of jackasses for sure. Like, this is right
Won't
up
go
there.
away anytime soon.
Yep.
No.
Yep. Austin, final thoughts?
This was a tough case. And thank you guys for sticking it out with us.
Yes. Thank you, chat.
Lindsay.
Normally I have more to say, but I just can't.
I understand, my
I
friend.
understand. Thank you for staking it out with us, because I know
Yeah.
this hits close to
Yeah.
home for you.
Yeah, and you know, that was the other thing is Austin did say that this is one of those that was, you know, more personal to him, and I'm glad that he could hang out, and you know, that was good job there, Austin. Appreciate it.
I agree. Lindsay?
I think this is one we're going to reference and talk about for a long time. This is officially a chapter in the lore of TCF. But yeah, when we come to an agreement so quickly that we need to talk about this more, it tells you there's a lot to unpack. And yikes.
Yeah, we had to air our grievances on this one for sure.
We had stuff to get out.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Miguel?
Yeah, I guess just to reiterate, this is one of the worst cases, but I'm glad we talked about it. I'm glad we were, well, at least for me, I just try to take the humorous aspect of it, but it is dark. I mean, you know, we can sit here and yuck it up a little bit, but this is dark. And, but it's important to bring stuff like this to light because whenever we have a case like this, you always have to wonder how many more like this are there.
Right.
And so I'm glad that we were able to talk about it.
How many is there like it? Probably countless, unfortunately. Wahoo just said in response to the villain / face, more of a villain she could have stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very true. And
So
that I think is
if she stopped, she wouldn't have access to the money anymore, though. So
yeah. Well, she's not going to have access to any money for quite a long time, or freedom, or anything else, and that's probably the way it should be.
Yep, just access to Bertha.
Yep.
Or whoever the cellmate is.
Hopefully she enjoys Bertha.
Mm.
All right.
I need
On that note. Cue various visuals from Orange is the New Black.
See?
there we go.
This is why I'm here.
I needed that laugh at the end.
All right. That's it for tonight, my friends. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific. Be back here for Sidebar on Thursday, and it is You Decide the Topic night.
Yes.
On Thursday. So, chat, you have to show up, and you have to show up with ideas on what you want us to talk about. Otherwise, we're just going to sit here in silence for an hour, and that is not good programming. So
And we talk about food, probably.
Yeah, maybe some food.
Or
all right,
Bertha.
that's it. See y'all in the morning. Take care. God bless.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys.
Bye.
Have a good night, y'all.